So I finally did it. I got a new laptop. I ended up with the Gigabyte Aero 15, and this is why. So after years of using my Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro, it became evident that this computer was not made to do video editing. I got to a point, I love this computer, by the way. It does everything up until video editing, 4K video editing. It's fantastic, amazing monitors, beautiful colors. I mean, it's just a great computer, small and light, love it. But it's just not made to do video editing. So I ended up having to, as my program started freezing and my video editing would stop, and I ended up having a very hard time editing some videos as I started adding layers, and especially once I started getting into 4K, I had to get a new laptop. So I did a bunch of research. I called up a buddy of mine, James Lee of Lee Media Creatives. He's kind of my go-to guy for video stuff, and I asked him what laptop he uses. He said the same thing as I did. He pretty much said that, hey, he's done messing around with different laptops. He's going to have to get something serious and make sure that he's going to do it right. And he decided he was going to research as well. So we both together kind of researched this thing out and kind of threw notes back and forth. Ultimately, for me, what I needed something that was small and light. I wanted something that would be color accurate, meaning if I looked at the screen and I was editing a photo and I turned around and I went to print it out, it was pretty accurate as far as that goes. I wanted something that could handle 4K video, obviously, which is a big deal for me. And I thought that was pretty much, I thought that was okay. I didn't think I was asking too much. It turned out to be a little bit more than I thought. I originally thought that I was going to be able to get one of those 13-inch Ultrabooks, kind of like the Yoga 2 Pro, but I thought I could get like a newer version that was kind of souped up. Turns out that if you're really going to get into video editing, a lot of content creators like myself are turning towards gaming computers. Gaming computers have the video cards that we need. They have the monitors that we need, and really they have the capabilities that we need to do this. Anytime you're touching video, you're really starting to push the processing power and also that of the video card. So the search went on, and we ended up, for me, what I ended up with is basically ended up with a few choices. Actually, I'd say 5 choices. One was the MacBook Pros. Problem with the MacBook Pro is if you were to get the equivalent specs, you're going to be paying at least $1,000 to, I would say, even up to $3,000 compared to the next highest price model. So the MacBook Pros went out. Then there was the Dell XPS 15. Great laptop, great reviews, one of the stronger ones out there. And they actually have an advantage where they actually have an i9 chip, which the Apple does as well. However, I personally had some issues with Dell before, as far as just maintenance and quality and whatever. So I ended up saying I don't want to get a Dell. Also, I had a hard time pricing Dells. Dells are very hard to price. They are priced differently all over the place, and I had a hard time finding one that was a decent price that I wanted. When I looked them up, it was very expensive. So that was another reason Dell went out. So basically, it came down to 3, which is pretty much the same ones that a lot of people I'm finding are debating out there, debating about. One is the MSIG65 computer. The other is the Razer Blade 15, and the other is the Gigabyte Aero 15x. They all pretty much have the newest i7 chip. They have the 1070 Max Q video card, which is apparently one of the better video cards you get out there by NVIDIA. They are throttled down a little bit because of that Q, right? So that's what so you can get a 1070 card, for example, but the 1070 Q is throttled down a little bit to fit into these laptops. One of the issues that they're having with these laptops, after all this research I'm finding, is that the chips get hot and the chassis now are small and thin. So the trade-off is that as the laptop gets hotter and hotter, sometimes these chips will throttle down and slow down once they reach a certain temperature. So that's really been the struggle, and there's all these different technologies. Supposedly Razer Blade has like some liquid cool things that would cool it down more. They have stronger fans, so fan noise is an issue, especially if you're doing sound stuff. I think if you're doing music and whatever, that's something for you to consider. For me, that's not that much of a big deal. But if you're sitting in a coffee shop and it's quiet, or a library, and all of a sudden that fan starts going, people do notice. So that's something to look at. But anyway, when I look, so MSIGS65, Razer Blade 15, Aero 15. As I looked more, I actually went into Best Buy and I looked at the MSI computers because they have them on display. I realized that I think I wanted a 4K monitor. So I think 4K is a little bit more color accurate usually, especially on this one and the Razer Blade 15. They're actually both very, very color accurate computers. This one uses the Pantone thing or whatever, so it's color calibrated and so forth. So the MSI G65 is out because they don't have 4K. So now it came down to the Razer Blade and the Aero 15x. I'm not gonna lie, even after getting this, I still have some pings of regret because I love the way that Razer Blade 15, the Razer Blade 15 really looks. I mean, it's a gorgeous computer. It's got this little glow-in-the-dark little thing on the back, and it's really a beautiful computer. And it's kind of almost has like a cult following. However, there were a few things. First of all, with this guy, you get another M.2 slot, meaning you get another hard drive. So you have one main hard drive, and this one allows you to have a second one. They both, the specs are pretty much all the same. The other thing about this computer is that it has an SD slot over here, which actually is not just an SD slot, it's a very fast SD slot, so that's really awesome. So this guy's got a lot of juice. Again, compared to the Razer, I mean, they're always neck and neck. Some reviews say that this is faster, some say the Razer Blade is faster. I have no idea. I know they're both in the ballpark, so I'm good with that. I think this, for me, became the logical choice because it did have, it has a larger battery. Not a huge difference, but enough that it probably, I think it buys you another hour or so according to my research. The other thing that it does is it has the SD card slot, it has the extra hard drive. So some of those things do make a difference in the long run. If I'm out somewhere, traveling somewhere, sometimes it's nice not to have to carry a separate hard drive, although I usually would anyway, but not to have to run video off another hard drive or edit off another hard drive when I already have one in here, which is something that the Razer Blade 15, now the Razer Blade does have a 1060Q model, which does have a separate hard drive. That's actually a spinning drive as opposed to an SSD drive, I believe. But this guy allows me to have two SSD drives. And the Razer Blade with the 1070Q card does not have a separate hard drive. So I ended up doing this. So what I ended up doing here is I ended up getting another 16 gigs of RAM. So I have 32 gigs of RAM in here, dual channel, which is supposed to be faster again. I have the, it came with the SD card, and I added a terabyte hard drive in here, SSD hard drive. So this is all loaded up and ready to go. So at the end, this is what I ended up going with. Issues I have with this guy. One is the speakers, not so hot. They're kind of tinny sounding, not a lot of bass, and really not loud. My hearing sucks, so I wish it was a little bit louder. The other thing, I ended up hooking up, getting a Bluetooth speaker just to kind of keep it going, but then you have some syncing issues or whatever. So I end up usually editing with headphones. The other issue with this is that really, to get the full power on this, you have to have it plugged in. If it's not plugged in, even if you play with all the settings, these gaming computers are pretty cool. Number one is they can change the color of the keyboard and all of that stuff. But mechanically, what you can do is you can change the fan speed. You can really, you have a little bit more control over the power settings and whatever. Even if you're on battery and you have this thing on high maximum output power settings or what have you, it does not keep up when you're editing videos. You get some of that lag. Even sometimes if you're watching YouTube videos and you put it on 4K, it looks beautiful, but when you're on battery, you get some lag. I found that when you plug it in, it seems like that beefs it up and the power is where it's supposed to be, so it works really well. So that's an issue because you do have to be plugged in to really maximize the power. Not saying that you can't use it for video editing if you were like on a plane or something, but if you have an outlet, it's a lot better. Then you have the sound. What else? Oh, one thing. Oh, they have the camera is right here. So if you do a lot of camming, pick your nose before you do it because you really get a nice view up your nostrils. But there's a lot of these that have the same thing, so I guess that's a moot point. I don't do that often anyway, so it's not a big deal for me. The other thing is that it's got a big power brick. This thing is like a big ass power brick. I didn't expect it to be so heavy. The laptop itself, I was pleasantly surprised. It was a lot thinner than I thought it would be. It's like 4 point something pounds, so it's really light. I'm cool with that. But the power brick is probably 2 or 3 times the size of what I had with my Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro. I think it's 200 watts, which is one of the bigger power bricks that are out there. James has a bigger one with a 17-inch laptop, but I mean for a 15-inch laptop is one of the biggest power bricks. It's certainly not the same as the Mac Pros, which is like a little thing like this. This is it's like a big substantial brick. So by the time you add that into the weight with the laptop, it's not so light anymore. Now I don't know how big the Razer Blades is, but I know that this one is pretty large. So that's one thing. I'm actually looking around to see if I can find a smaller power brick for that, but I don't know how possible that's going to be. But overall, it does what I need it to do. I actually like this. I love this computer. It's doing everything I need to do. It's kind of fun to play with. It's nice to have all of these lights and so forth. I put 4K video in there, and literally it renders everything out like butter. I mean, it just really goes through it like nothing. I don't have to sit around and wait 45 minutes, sometimes 1 or 2 hours for something to render out. This thing renders out almost, you know, I wouldn't say minute to minute, but pretty close. I mean, it really renders out pretty quickly. So I'm happy with my purchase. I have no regret. Like I said, a little bit here and there with the Razer, but that's really a cosmetic thing. So I'm confident that I made the right choice. So really, no regrets. I think I made the right move. There are videos out there if you guys want to look at specs and all of that stuff. I mean, benchmarking and everything else. Obviously, there's a lot of great videos out there. But as for me, I can give it to you from the end user experience. This thing has everything I need and more. So if you have any questions or so forth, please feel free to comment below if you have any comments. And if you I know a lot of people out there, a lot of you guys out there have been going through the same debate I went through. It was not easy. I went through and I agonized about which one of these 3, and there's usually these 3 are in the running, which one of these 3 do I go with? I agonized and I ended up going with this. I'm pretty happy with it. But again, if you guys have any questions, or if you went through the same thing and you want to tell me which one you went with and why, I'd love to hear. So if you like this video, please like. And if you really like this video and you want to see more, a lot of my stuff is going to be about content creation. It's going to be about travel and different things like that. So hopefully we'll see you again, and you can subscribe. I'll talk to you soon.